Hi, everyone. Welcome to the NECS podcast. This is our third podcast, podcast number three. My name is, that's right, Hans. I forgot my name. My name is Christopher Anatra. I'm saying it with the correct Italian pronunciation. And today we have a special guest, Hans Schatz from Cut and Dry. And we're going to talk about the future. We're going back to the future. We're going to talk,
Literally.
yeah, literally. We're going to talk about like the future of food distribution, what that might look like in the upcoming years, how artificial intelligence will play into that, and so forth. So most of you already know who I am. I'm the president of NECS Incorporated. We have a product called Entree, which is ERP software to run a food distributor's operation. And Hans is from a company called Cut and Dry. So Hans, give us like a little brief overview of who you are, and we're gonna do like a little bit of a deeper dive, but like an overview of who you are and cut and dry a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to join your podcast. That's exciting. And number three is exciting. It won't be long. You'll be saying this was a number 100, and you look back and go, "Wow, how did we get that far?" That's cool, and it's great that you're doing this for the industry. I think these conversations are important, and I personally appreciate it because I love doing these, and I love talking about our industry, where it's been, where it is, and where it should go, which isn't always where it does go, right?
Right.
And so it's great minds pushing the boundaries is what causes some of that innovation and bends that curve. And I love that. So again, Hans Schatz, and it's a good, nice, easy German name. I am a student in this business. I started washing dishes when I was 14 at a really cool pizza place and worked for that company through high school, through college. Before I was 21, I helped open four additional restaurants. So I got this emergence in our business at a very, very young age, too young of an age probably. And that got me down this path of just learning how to have a heart of hospitality. And I never got out of the business. That led me to the hotel business in Texas with Hyatt Hotels. And if any of you have ever been on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, that beautiful atrium hotel, I was in food and beverage management, and it was insane because back in those days, I thought it was an easy week when we only worked 100 hours. Remember, I don't know if you remember that, Chris, but
Those are the
I
easy weeks.
remember
I know every day, 7 days a week. I was working all the time.
all the time. And we would take naps in the linen closet. And the bell captain would take my pager, which is what we had back in those days. So I wouldn't get these 911 pages and I could actually get 2 hours of sleep. So it was crazy what we did. And so not to get bogged down in details, but that part of my career led me to getting into this crazy business called food distribution. So I went to work for a company called White Swan in Austin, Texas. There was a 4 or 5 house distribution group headquartered out of Dallas called White Swan. Been around since the 1800s. The guy used to drive a horse-driven carriage and sell canned goods out of the back, and
I
you
remember.
know,
I know.
like
I remember. I
so.
remember. I remember White Swan for sure when I was.
Yes, Maple's Platter was their brand, and like so many of the amazing distributors in our industry, these are generational businesses. Now, a lot of them have been bought and merged and things like that, but there's still hundreds, if not thousands, of family-owned distributors. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But that crazy business led me to I got recruited by Food Services of America, which is part of the parent company Services Group of America that was owned by Tom Stewart at the time. And I moved from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. And that was like a wow, what just happened? And then my career just took off with FSA, and I got moved 4 or 5 times. I became a young division president, youngest one in the company, and then that led to me joining their corporate team. And we ran about 11 divisions, and then we took responsibility for four other companies in the parent company, a systems company, a produce company, a protein company, and a 3PL that turned into a 4PL. So I had again, I was always the youngest guy. I don't know what happened. I'm not the youngest guy anymore in any calls, but at the time I was. But it gave me a very, very broad perspective of our industry in multiple markets. Not in, I didn't work in this one market for 25 years, which no knock on that. So I saw a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different styles, a lot of different leadership styles, market types, sectors, segments, and all the interesting nuance that went with all that. Um, I left the distribution business to start a technology company, which we'll come back around to, that not really an e-com platform, but a platform to help manufacturers and operators get direct line to communication. Didn't quite get it off the ground. Big learning lesson for me. I got skin, knees, and elbows still from 13 years ago. And that led me, one of the investors, that led me into a family-owned business that was a craft beverage company. And Chris, it was the coolest thing, one of the coolest things I ever did. We roasted coffee, blended teas, and a handful of other things for food service, like Shamrock Foods and Nicholas Foods. We did their high-end coffees, private label for them. A bunch of other operators. We did proprietary products for chains like Payway, PF Chang's, and BJ's Brew House and things like that. Brewed teas. And then we created a line of products we got into retail, which if you haven't done retail business, number one, stay out of it. Number two, talk to somebody that's done it. We'll tell you why you shouldn't do it. Now, I'm just
Right.
teasing, but learned a ton. And we launched products into Albertsons, Safeway, Kroger, Walmart, and a national launch of Sprouts. And you want to get an education in how retail distribution, retail promo, shelf placements, all that works. Go launch a new product and compete with the big guys and see just how incredibly difficult it is, but with amazing learnings. That tripped me into the GPO side of things with Buyer's Edge platform. I knew them. I'd done consulting work for them years ago. And so I knew the founder, John Davies, some people that worked there. Wasn't exactly an amazing company, $76 billion company, I might add. They own 25 companies just in the US. It's just this massive empire. And John Davies needs a made-for-TV movie about how he started in his dad's garage, literally with a notepad and a pencil and a Nextel phone, and created this. I just have so much respect for what he created and how big it is. But I wanted to help run a company, and I met the Cut and Dry people about a year and a half earlier. I was really enthralled with what they're doing because what I tried to create, some of the essence of that was in what Monty had created and his partners at Cut and Dry, and things just worked out where I had a chance to join them in an executive capacity. I'm responsible now for all the industry partnerships, high-end partnerships, relationships, marketing, the marketing team to go to market, and then I've got dotted line to sales for manufacturers and distributors. So it's a very big job. It's a very cool industry we're in, but it's a giant, small industry, right? We were just talking about that. Go to conferences and you run into all these people. Their faces stay the same. Their name tags may change, right? Who they're associated with, but they don't leave the industry. Everybody stays in it. So there's a little quick background for you. I guess it wasn't that quick, but there's a background
No,
for you.
no, that's good because it really shows that you have been really deep into the world of food distribution.
Yes.
So you've been on many different sides of it, which is good to have all those different types of experiences. Yeah, and so for myself, like my experiences are really on the software end of it, and creating the software to help a food distributor operate. And I always think, I wrote everything or everything that we could possibly put into our software is there, but it's not. It's like a
Right.
continually evolving thing since 1990. So tell us a little bit about Cut and Dry and how you think that fits into the food distribution industry right now.
Well, let's frame that a little bit. And I didn't know you went back to 1990. I forgot about that. You've been doing this for a minute too,
Yep.
which is fantastic. And you're right, it's constant evolution. But if you look at our industry, there's roughly 12,500 food service distributors in America. So think about that. That's a big number.
You
And
said
that's
12,000?
12,500, right? So let that sit in the air for a minute. So you start at the very top. You start with Cisco at 80 something billion, however big they are. You go down, you start going down the line. You get the top 10, and which are the nationals and the super regionals like Benny Keith, Gordon Foods, Shamrock Foods, all amazing companies. Cheney Brothers, which just got bought by PFG. And then you step into another tier where you have these large local operators like, let's say, Harbor Foods and Buy-Right and Nicholas Foods. And then you step down into another tier where it's mostly a single house. Maybe they're doing 300 million. Then you get that long tail of really great companies. Maybe they're in the meat space or produce or seafood or specialty goods or paper and janitorial, whatever. And there's that long tail, right? 50, 60 million, 50 million, 40 million, 30 million, 20 million, 10 million. And so there are a lot of participants. How do they go to market? How do they go collect orders from operators, right? Operators being restaurants, hotels, hospitals, schools, camps, lodges, theme park, all the people that buy wholesale food, that prepare it, prisons, healthcare, uh, So anybody prepares food, and your customer could be a prisoner, your customer could be a third grader, your customer could be a couple coming in to dine in your restaurant for their anniversary. So they're all customers, right? They're different types of customers, different types of segments of food preparers, but they all of them have to acquire food. This system is very, very broad and disparate. So if you're an operator, the typical independent operator buys from 5 to 7 suppliers. Now think about that for a minute. 5 to 7 different companies. Now they may put in an electronic order with this company. They may text an order to that company. They may phone an order to these 2 companies. This one company, Chris, the super sales rep, comes in and says, I want to take your order personally. So they come with their laptop and they take their order, or they grab it off the clipboard. So now as an operator, you have to do a lot of work to place your orders, right? Now imagine if you could go into more of a Amazon or Shopify kind of experience, and all of that work can be done in one place. That's what Cut and Dry's offered is this beautiful e-commerce platform where an operator can go in, whether it's we work with distributors, we sign them on their platform. They have this wonderful enhanced experience where people can see product, multiple pictures of a product, deep, detailed attributes about that product, all the things that you really need, and then a lot more. And the ability to click and get a sample. So you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to track down your rep or broker or whoever to get a sample. And then if you go through all of that, you get everything, there's a hyperlink to that manufacturer. So you can go right to that manufacturer without trying to figure out where to go to get more detailed information on that product. Now, in most cases, sometimes we even have more product than the manufacturer does because we collect it from a lot of different areas. So as an operator, I'm going back to the question, what Cut and Dry brings to the marketplace is this, I call it a wonderful playground, where a distributor can now enhance their product portfolio instead of just having an order guide. And we all know, I don't know who your audience is for this podcast, but if you're in this business, this item is CKX BL 40Z 2 5-pack. What is that? Chicken, boneless, 4-ounce. That's it. That's your description. And you're going to order 3 of those because now imagine being able to go into, like you do when you're ordering something on Amazon, and you get the beautiful picture and you get additional pictures and what it looks like inside the box, outside the box, prepared, in a nice, and you're like, oh, well, and then you get to see other products like it. Go, well, I've been buying this one, but I really think this one will satisfy what we're doing better. And so that's the experience we bring. That's what Cut and Dry, the essence of Cut and Dry is. It's this amazing e-commerce platform, but it doesn't just stop there. Our core competency, our core constituent, maybe is a better word, is that we go out and work with distributors. We have about 150 on our platform, and we sign 3 to 4 to 6 to 7 a month that join us to come in and do this. And we'll talk about the integration if you want to, but that's a little bit of a journey. But when you come out the other side, you get this beautiful playground of this really enhanced experience. But then we let manufacturers come in that work with those distributors to promote their products, just like, let's say you're going to go look for a set of headphones, right? These are just little cheapies. So you go in, you pull it, you punch in both, and a Beats by Dr. Dre pops up because it's sponsored. They paid money,
Right,
to get that advertising space. So I'm looking for Bose. I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I may click on the sponsored one, and then I'll make my decision based off compare and contrast and pricing and all other stuff. But it's giving the operator options and choices in a very, very rich user experience. So that's the essence of what Cut and Dry is bringing into the marketplace. And I think that will help for that long tail distributors we're talking about. It's going to help them have a much more enhanced experience with their operators.
Okay. So let me play devil's advocate for a while, because one of the things we've done here at NECS is we went through this process where we polled a lot of our customers, almost all 500 of them. And there's a group of them that is, shying away from e-commerce. They want to handle everything, over the phone, or the rep goes there, or they have specific inventory needs. Maybe they're short on certain things. Maybe they got an overshipment, or they ordered a special product they want to start offering, and they want to be able to really deal with the customer one-on-one. What would you say to that group of people that's, kind of a little bit shy of the whole e-commerce route? Because I think part of it is I think it would take too much time. But
Well, first of all, God bless them because I totally get it. At the height of my career, I had almost 600 sales reps I was responsible for throughout an enterprise, and all the district managers and regional managers and vice presidents and inside sales and product specialists that went with that. So it was almost 700 people. Sales reps have paranoia about somebody coming between them and their customer. Distributors have paranoia about somebody coming between them and their customer. In the industry and all things, there's early adopters and there's laggards, right? There's some people is like, hey, we want to do that because we see this as an opportunity to free up a process that should be more automated. And then we pay our sales reps a lot of money. Let them be sales, not order collectors, but sales reps. That's very cliche, but it's a cliche moment, and I think it's a very good question and point you brought up, and I think I can validate that I know for sure you're not making up a statistic to put me on the spot because I hear the same thing, right? And
right,
so what I tell people is like, listen, we've all been doing this for a long time. Distributors say, Hans, how do we beat Cisco and US Foods, right? Darth Vader and Godzilla. They're the two boogeymen in the closet or under the bed, whatever,
right,
whatever scary
right.
thing you'd like to think about. And which are two amazing companies. But I say you're not going to beat them. But let's use a different word because words matter, right? How do you compete with them? They've got these extravagant e-com platforms. As a matter of fact, our team, the founders of our company, built the Cisco e-com universe. Cisco bought it from them. They went off, had a non-compete for a bunch of years, and then non-compete, they're like, hey, if we did that for Cisco, we can do it for the industry. That's how they built Cut and Dry. So it's an incredible origin story. And I would say, Chris, it dates back to the late 2000, 2009, 2010. So technically, in the big sense, with the big companies we compete with, we're the OG. We were the original that kind of created this concept on a broad base for the food service industry. So back to your question is that I understand that fear and paranoia. The other piece of that, let me add one more piece to that. The distributors are very, very data conscious, very data fearful. What if somebody going to do with my data? What if my data gets sold? What if it gets aggregated with what if somebody gets a sneak peek inside my sandbox?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I could get hurt. They could use that against me. They could take this information, go to my competitors and do these other things. And number one, that never happens with Cut and Dry ever. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing if that was the case. Number two, you think you have to take a step back and say and ask yourself, I know what we've done to get us where we are. I know how hard the battle is where we are right in this moment because it's a tough business. And I could go through all the waterfall of what makes it hard. How do we, if the industries are always changing, and if the consumer, if our customer, these operators, if the legacy members or the older participants in the food service operation side are aging out and the younger people coming in and they live off of these, how are we connecting with them in the right way, right? How are we communicating in a way that's meaningful to that new gen that's running these operations? Number one. Number two.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'll let you continue, but yeah.
Yeah, so we can stop me at any time because I put a quarter in myself. I don't need anybody else to do it. Get going. But that's number one. Number two, if we want to be honest about where things are going, we can hold on to the legacy model and say we're going to beat them with service. Or we can say, hey, we love service, but we can provide a greater level of service if we take this age-old process of just placing the order. I'll use the term automate it lightly because it still has somebody has to do something and automate it so that our salespeople can go promote long on inventory, promote new products, new product partners, promote things that we make more margin at. Hey, we want to sell more of this minor major category because it's a big margin maker for us. Promote something that's attacking that soft white underbelly of one of those big distributors, one of those national brands that we know we can beat them because we move faster. We don't have to, whatever, our overhead, our infrastructure is not as high, whatever. And we're taking share away. And in the distributor world, and I know you know this, The economic engine is cases per customer per drop. There's been a ton of studies done, and I used to do them when I was helping run Food Service America. You get 2 cases per stop per route additional. Your profit margin is not a straight line profit margin. It's an incremental impact. So if you think about that, 2 cases per customer per stop. That means you can't lose any. So that's a net, right? But it's incredible what it does. Now it sounds simple. It's really hard to do. So if I
Can
go
I
put
stop?
my
Can I
yeah,
stop you for a second?
yes, please.
When you say 2 cases, do you mean 2 additional cases from their regular order? But not 2 cases in total, just
No,
additional.
2 additional cases on whatever that drop is.
Okay.
And that varies between sector. Produce probably drops fewer cases, more frequent. Broadliners drop more cases, less frequent. So there's some nuance in there.
Mhm.
But the model's pretty similar. And because I'm going to assume that you've got your margin set up properly and you're thinking through that. So I don't want to get down to the weeds, which it's easy for me to do after doing this for so darn long. But so let's step back to your question. What would you tell those companies that are like, we want our sales rep to sell? Then have them sell. Give your operators an opportunity to have this rich experience. And I call it a playground, honestly. And what I tell people, listen, I watch the deep water that runs in our industry. And when you can give a shopper a greater user experience, they're going to do what? Buy more. They're going to buy more. They just do. And you can wrap science around it, you can wrap math around it, you can wrap data around it, but you also have to wrap heart around it because some of it's emotional. It's like, oh, that's my wife sends me to the grocery store with 12 things on the list. How many items do I come back with? Usually it's around 20 because I'm like, hey, that looks good. I want some of that, because I see it with my eyes because we eat with our eyes. Now, when you've gone from ordering on a spreadsheet and an order guide that you print off the computer and it's 2 of these and 4 of those, there's no expansion. And the operator may say, hey, we're thinking about doing an appetizer, adding an appetizer, and the rep says, okay, well, I'll get some information for you. And next time they come in or the next time they drop off a couple, the old 1-page flyer with information, all this stuff that's a static, dead piece of paper. And the place says, well, I'd like to try a couple of these things. The rest says, oh, let me order some samples for you, and on and on and on and on. Nothing happens fast. Sometimes the passion gets lost. The moment passes. Another rep comes in and says, oh, I got that. I'll get it dropped off to you tomorrow. Bro, the system, people have accepted a clunky, slow system. Technology can remove that. Doesn't remove the relationships, but it moves the speed to market on information, data, samples. Hey, I got a button on our e-commerce platform. You hit that button, you'll have something in 48 hours. Is that a game changer? Yeah. Does that make mid-level distributor way more valuable to that operator? I think the answer is yes. So that's what my encouragement would be. And Chris, trust me, I've heard it. What you brought up in the 19 variations of the same thing. I've heard it all. And again, I understand. I have a big heart for that fear mode. But I also say, hey, you can be an early adopter. You can join now. You can be a laggard. If you're a laggard, you're gonna most likely you're gonna lose market share, and you're gonna spend more money to keep up with people that are doing it faster at less cost. So how's that a winner for you?
Yeah, exactly. And going back to what you were saying before, part of what's happening too is a lot of the operators, those that are like actually placing the orders, they're probably in their 30s at least. Some are older. The older ones probably don't have like a cell phone that they're looking into all the time. But the younger ones, they're used to that. I'm a young 59-year-old, and you're a young 61-year-old. But sometimes some of the older people, like they might be set in their ways.
Yeah.
Um, I even noticed that when it comes to uh, food distributors that are interested in purchasing the entree software, there's a surprising number of them. Like we'll ask them, what system are you currently on? And a surprising number of them say nothing, pen and paper. And we're like, what? In this day and age, you're still using pen and paper? Sometimes people will use spreadsheets. Oh yeah, we've got all these different spreadsheets or something like that. So once
And I
they,
promise you, they're not hyperlinked, so they're static, dead spreadsheets, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. But then once they overcome that obstacle and they start like implementing the technology, they can't live without it.
Right.
If like one thing goes down, like if a loading sheet doesn't print or something, that's a big deal because everything is just so everyone gets so used to everything working so efficiently and all the different parts working together.
Right.
So yeah, so the industry is those are concerns. And there's other concerns that I've noticed that some of our um, distributors have, and it has to do with like supply chain inefficiencies.
Right.
Labor shortage is a big one. What's your experience with either of those, if you want to talk about
Well, so now you're getting into the deep water. Let's put labor in a parking lot for a minute, because
it?
that's an
Okay.
operator issue more than it is a distributor. Well, I guess it's a distributor issue also. As a matter of fact, I talked to
Oh
a
yeah,
trade
I think
show this week, talking to a group that has a handful, a private equity group that has a handful of independent family, well, they were family owned, they're owned by the private equity now. Part of their challenge is labor. But, and so let's talk supply chain. So with a simple basic supply chain, 101, you got manufacturers, distributors, operators, right? Supply chain flows this way, manufacturer, distributor, operator. Consumer comes into the supply chain this way, right? They make a choice, they go where they want to go, and they spend their money where they want to spend it, depending on what their experience and what that occasion is. So let's just leave the consumer over here and talk about the supply chain. The supply chain seems simple when they teach it in college. You got this node, this node, this node. And you and I both know that those node connections are these big giant bowls of spaghetti, just knotted up, and you've got everything in the world that's made this more complex. And demand signals are not good. Signals coming back through the supply chain the other way are almost non-existent. And so you got manufacturers producing too much, too little, distributors ordering too much, too little, operators moving around all the time, yes, we're using this French fry, this beer batter coated French fry, but now we're going to go to this stealth fry. And oh, yeah, well, sorry, we forgot to tell you, but we order 40 cases a week. And so that through supply chain breaks a lot of different things, right? And so then you've got, if you think about the big picture of supply chain, you got all these entities that live around the supply chain. You're one of them, I'm one of them, right? You got data companies, you got tech companies, you got 3PLs and 4PLs, you got marketing companies, you got research companies, you've got buying groups, you got GPOs. They all live off some of these exit roads that are in between those nodes of manufacturer, distributor, operator. Some of them solve problems. Some of them build solutions. Some of them extract supply chain resources and don't return an equal or greater amount. Fair enough? I'll be nebulous on what that might be.
Can you go a little deeper?
Uh, I think that in anything, when there's issues in between trading partners, and there's companies that come in that say, "Hey, we can help solve the work on that issue, but they don't solve the systemic problem." In other words, they like that being an issue because that's what their company works off of. How's that? I
Okay.
got to leave company names out because I don't want to sound like I'm picking on anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So now your question about the supply chain, yeah, this is a big issue. And think about this for a second, Chris. If you were Chris's Bistro and you had six of them in your market and you've been there for years, people loved you, you worked hard, you put your whole company, your whole family's capital resources into it. You have all these local customers that love you. Nestle Foods doesn't have visibility into you. Lamb Weston Foods doesn't have visibility into you. Tyson Foods doesn't have visibility into you. They have visibility to a distributor, but the distributors are, because they're paranoid about their data. Again, let me note, I understand and get it. I have a big heart for that. They don't necessarily turn around and say, "Here's everything you sold. Here's everybody you sold it to. Here's what that person paid for it." And so there's a visibility break. So how can good resources financially or marketing or promotion flow through a supply chain? It doesn't. It goes through entities. Sometimes it goes, sometimes it doesn't. So the operator doesn't get everything they could get to help them thrive. And who ultimately pays for that? The diner or the ultimate consumer, right? They don't get everything they could get. And so, yeah, I'm on a board of one of the Arizona universities, Northern Arizona University's hotel restaurant school. I have been for too long, about 10 years. So I get to go in and do stuff in the classroom and teach them things. One of the things I could talk about is supply chain. And I got this big wonky graph I put up, and the kids just think like, hey, coffee comes in a can. No, it grows on trees. What do you mean it grows on trees? And I shouldn't say kids, they're really bright students, but I blow their minds open when we talk about here's how the supply chain works. Here's the part that does well. Here's all the broken pieces, and there's a lot more broken pieces and parts that go well. So when you touch on that, that's a big issue. You were probably talking a more simplistic, and I mean you're being simplistic, but how does this product go from the manufacturer distributor to the operator? That's the main function of supply chain. But the part you wrap around that to make that a much more dynamic function is where we're going to get to in a minute, where technology, I think, is going to light it on fire.
Right. Are we ready to go there? Are we ready to talk about
You're
technology?
bringing me into yeah, I'm gonna put my arm floaties on, do my best to keep up with you.
Okay, yeah, because like let's bring the concept of technology, specifically artificial intelligence, into the conversation. And I want to do that because I'm being asked that question all the time. My people that work for me, the distributors are asking them like, what's the future of AI? What do I do about it? What do I do about my competitors that are using it against me? So
Right.
forth. And then there's a whole issue of like the ethics of artificial intelligence. But where do you see like the benefits of AI right now in that can help a food distributor?
Yeah. Well, you and I chatted just for a moment prior to turning the podcast on, and I was just on the phone with a buddy of mine that was at a tech conference in the last couple of weeks, and for food service. And one of the guest speakers said that the AI adoption and let's call it the emerging tech adoption out of all the business industries in the country is lowest in food service. So let's start there, right?
The lowest in food
If
service.
food service is the lowest in the industry of all the other big industries, and it's
I can
slower
believe
to
that.
adapt, slow, to embrace. And let's be honest, distributors' margins are so tight, writing a check for something that's to them is like science fiction is hard.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you could probably tell that story a lot better than I can because you're sitting right in that middle of that universe, right? And the fact that you said some companies don't have ERP systems, or they're, I mean, there's still people running off AS400s, right? Which, you got a system and it works, but if you compare that to what you could do today, there's such a big gap. So it I thought about this because you're kind of just in your questions, and I think that look at repetitive spreadsheet forecasting, budgeting, financial processes. If somebody's sitting over a computer with a 10 key or whatever, crunching through, getting information from their ERP system if they have one, and I would like to think that most do, and not some don't. All ERP systems aren't created equal, right? You know that. Our company works with over 50, and we see the differences. And I think those things naturally lend themselves to a learn machine system doing a lot of that heavy lifting, right? It's data. So data doesn't doesn't need a person to put it in an organized way. It needs a person to look at it and say, well, now what's this data telling me? And maybe data can be put in an organized way, and then a learn machine system can say, here's what I see. What do you see? Here's some red flags. Here's some success, all of that, right? Think about a dashboard. And so I really believe that will make a big impact on a localized way in a broad industry space. Some of the things we're talking about with those knots in the supply chain, right? I think they'll get unknotted. And I think about it like this, Chris, and you probably could articulate this better than me, but let's be metaphorical for a moment. You're in a dark room and there's stuff in the corners, you can't see it. You get to turn on a bright light. Now all of a sudden you see it all. I think that's kind of what this is going to do. That these broken, whether they've just developed over decades, because let's be honest, in our industry, this hasn't been a ton of change. I mean, what's the last big thing that happened in food service, honestly? Can you say what it is?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And there has been times where there have been made jumps, and I think like the whole e-commerce platform is like a
That's a
big jump
jump.
that
It
people
is.
have been experiencing for the last couple of years. Yeah,
It's a jump with pushback, which is normal.
right,
You know what the old saying is, hey, change is great. You go first. Right?
right, right.
And I'm going to watch and see if you survive. You survive, then I'll think about doing it. And
Yeah,
so go ahead.
I just want to interrupt you for a second because you were reminding me. I did another podcast and I was talking about how, like back in the early 90s, I would call on food distributors, knock on the door and actually talk to someone. And then someone would actually, if a distributor was interested, we'd implement the system for them. That was back in the days of DOS when the IBM PC was first coming out. But I would go into these food distributors' office and I would see like 10 or 20 people in cubicles with calculators, just adding up catch weights. And they would do that all day. Their job was to verify the catch weights and add them up and make sure the invoice total was correct. And one of them came up to me and he was kind of upset. He's like, your software is taking away my job. And I was talking to him and I said, do you really want to just add up numbers for the rest of your life? Is there something better you can be doing than that? So
Well,
yeah, so these are like evolutions in thought that we go through.
yes. And I'll add to that, period, next sentence. And when you're doing it by hand, you're going to make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, it costs the company money. And when it costs the company money, you make less profit. And when you make less profit, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a negative spiral. And
Exactly.
it's the same thing, Chris, with sales reps. Sales like, oh no, I take really good care of my customer. I take all their orders. I run out the hot shot. I'm super busy, but I don't have time to go open a new account. I don't really have time to go, I'm battling. I share the business at most of my clients. I don't really have time to go work on getting market share away from my competition because I'm just happy to keep what I have. All those things. And again, I'm not disparaging stuff. I know what it's like. I used to drag a bag back in the late 80s and early 90s in the back of restaurants. And, there's a little duck and cover. I'm just glad to get my fair share and I'll come back next week and hope I still have it. And again, you got all kinds of different salespeople, but so on the system side, I think there's a great resurgence that'll come out of this. It'll be fearful at first. And here's the thing that we have to realize, and again, you can speak to this better than me. Food service people don't talk tech. Food service people talk food. So you have to talk food to help them understand why the importance of the tech is, right? You go in and talk tech, you're gonna have a hard time getting the message across and getting an agreement and then getting adoption. So one of the things that we have to do from the tech side of the world is we got to understand what 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 a distributor does day in and day out. Got to have all the right inventory every time. You take an order today, you pick it tonight, you deliver it tomorrow. You better deliver it on time in the right condition at the right price. There's a lot happening in 24 hours or less, right?
Exactly.
So, and it doesn't stop. And it's 5 days a week, always 6 days a week in many cases, 7 days a week in some cases. And it's always during the times when most of the world is like taking a breath, holidays, weekends, nights, right? Special occasions. And so when we take conceptually say AI, first of all, AI is like saying marketing. What does marketing mean? Well, it means a million different things. Well, AI technically is artificial intelligence, but what does that mean? What does it really mean? So taking that down and explaining that in a way that's meaningful to the audience. And so I'm really enjoying working at Cut and Dry and watching the confluence of old ways things have been done, new ways people aspire to, what the operator's asking for, what the intelligence industry is saying must happen, and then how it's being spun up through conferences and industry events. And there's all these points coming in different ways. And it's darn interesting. And I think, Chris, and I guess I'm being quoted because I'm live here on your podcast. I think that the laggards, I do believe they're going to say, "Oh, crap, we gotta figure something out." So then the companies that help them figure that out in a way that's meaningful to them are the ones that are going to win. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense at all?
No, you're making a lot of sense. Absolutely. And then one of the things that I get concerned about, because I consider this like a chess game, but you can't see the whole board. It's really hard to figure out which AI is going to win over which other AI. Will it
Totally.
be a version from China? Will it be a version from Microsoft? Will it be a version from, wherever? So trying to figure out what the future would be, like I like to question the ethics. So is it possible that an AI by a very large food distributor could be used like battling another AI from a smaller guy? Those type of issues. So yeah, so where does this all stand? Does it come back to the human and providing the really good service and the really good, relationship? Or, what really could happen in the world of AI?
Yeah, it's like a super robot going after the robot from Lost in Space. Warning, Will Robinson, warning, right?
Right.
It's not a
Totally.
fair fight, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Or let me just throw one more thing. Like,
yeah.
have you ever seen those videos where they have these AI robots, usually from this organization called DARPA? But I saw one where they were playing a robot was playing badminton against two pro badminton players. And it was amazing to watch because I thought every time the robot was going to miss, it did a move that I was not expecting. It would just put its arm backwards and, get the badminton exactly where it needed to go. The humans basically didn't stand a chance. So,
Right. Well, and the physicality of a human, there's some limitations what the body will do, and maybe there's the robot's built in a way where it can move and twist in ways that the human body just doesn't like to do. But no, I haven't seen that. That would be fun and terrifying to watch.
yeah,
Because I was a early fan of Terminator and Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is the funny haha meme about all this. But I guess it's not funny. And Chris, the on the in the integrity side and the dark side of this, I don't know. There's scrupulous people that are always the dawn of time, right? Every generation has people that do things and they get away with it for a while, then they get caught, all this, and then gets discovered, and regulations and processes are put in place so it can't happen. It's going to happen.
yeah,
Question is, what is it going to be? And I don't really know. I will say this: inside the cut and dry platform, we do use AI for a handful of things. One of them is a restaurateur can walk down and just call in an order, and the AI will convert it to the specificity of what they buy, or it'll look and say, well, you bought this product, this you've asked for this, it's a similar, so it'll make some very logical deductions on what you're trying to order. So that's one easy little thing. Could that be manipulated? I don't think so. Another tool we have is that you can, if you're, Chris's ABC distributors, and you're a $150 million distributor and you're trying to penetrate in your market, you can go click on, say, we want to look at this 12 block region. And the AI will say, well, here's everybody you have business with already. Here's all the ones you don't. We're going to stack rank them on what we think is the best targets that match your specific inventory that you carry. And then we're going to scrape the menus and we're going to build an order guide for you. And your sales rep's going to get this really cool, like a presentation module. And when you walk in and see the chef, say, hey, I'm Hans, or I'm Chris. I'm from Chris's ABC distributor. We're in the market. You buy some similar things to some of our clients. We'd like to talk to you. Here's the QR code, chef. Hit this. It'll show you the presentation. That is a picture of me and my wife. And did that streamline? And that gets done in 3 minutes. Now, today's world, the sales rep could work a couple weeks on putting something like that together. And it'll be done in whatever fashion they have. It may not be done in a polished professional way. Now, that chef, I'm Chef Hans, and you came and did that. And I'm like, damn, that's interesting. I click on your QR code and I get this presentation pop up, and I'm like, yeah, I do. 90% of those products, that's exactly what I buy, or there's that type of product. Maybe it's a different brand, but it's the same thing. 1822 layout bacon. I'm super interested. That was really cool. I want to talk to this Chris guy. I like him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know, now I can also think of some devious things that could happen on pricing and doing things to your competition and, being 50 cents a case less, or, that kind of stuff. But I think that has to that's got to come out. It'll come out. It'll get washed out because people will chase it away because it's yeah, there's nefarious things that go on in our business today. Nobody will admit it. There's guerrilla marketing tactics that go on today. People
Sure.
might admit that because it's little kind of a cool thing if your guerrilla marketing tactics win. And so I don't know. I'm really curious to see what how this evolves and expands because it needs expansion to get adoption to get expansion, and with expansion and adoption, more and more and more comes out, right?
Right. Yeah. So, like, from everything you're saying and from the things that I believe too, like, I believe that for myself anyway, I like to look at AI and its abilities in a neutral form, realizing that there's a lot of positive uses for it that people could use, and then there's some negative uses they could use it for as well. But the whole thing, I think, is when it comes to AI, it's almost like raising a child. You almost have to train it. And if you
Right,
train it to be respectful, et cetera, whatever whatever that happens. And a lot of people that start using AI, they realize that there is like a training period that it goes through where the has to understand how things work and so forth, and how you work and how you think.
right.
So yeah, so I think that
If
um,
it truly is adaptive,
yeah,
right? Which is again is a hard thing for people to really wrap their arms around.
yeah. Yeah, but no matter what, AI is in our future. You know,
Yeah,
one way or another, it's there and it's going to be used. And it's going to be a tool
right,
that you use, or it could be a tool that your competitor uses against you.
right. And you asked me a good question when you prepped this session about, what advice would I give personally, and take my advice with a grain of salt or whatever. And I think that the point you just made is spot on, Chris. That this is the next thing. It's not a fad. It's not a moment, and it will continue to evolve and grow and take different shapes and forms. But we can see from the starting point that the intent is to help us operate more efficiently, faster, with greater data, which reduces costs, which frees up time so we can do our jobs better and more robustly.
Right.
And I would say if to your question about what would you say to whoever's consuming this podcast is that and let me add, there's all these different options, but it's like, listen, do a little due diligence, pick a partner, and take baby steps. And you do your own machine learning, right? You don't have to dive in, say we're going to throw everything, caution to the wind, we're going to throw everything into this, whatever this is. And you don't have to do that. And I don't think that's what it seems like the industry sometimes screams at people, right? You got to do this, or if you don't do that, and you better do, and people are like, what do we do?
Right. Right.
And who do we go to? Who's the experts? Who's the food distribution expert? There really isn't one. Or you will be, so those people will rise up and they'll become experts in that part of our space. And then they're going to give their opinion, which will be all of our opinions are biased because we're humans and we like this, don't like that, etc. So look at the data, but find a partner and take baby steps. And then, allow yourself to be uncomfortable as much as you can, and then learn through the process. Again, do your own, machine learning as an organization. And my guess is that people will be like, this A is not quite as scary as we thought it was. B, not really as complicated as we thought it was. C, God, we're getting some phenomenal insights. We can make better, faster decisions, which net us quicker results that we like, right? Does that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're talking too, I'm thinking the other big question we get asked all the time is about the Food Safety Modernization Act
Right.
that kicks in January of 2026,
Allegedly.
allegedly. Unless you have information that I don't have, it appears that it might be, but who knows, right? It's the
Well,
government.
since it was passed in 2004, you would think that, anyway,
Yeah. So I'm sure that AI will play a role in that as well.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And there's smart companies that are already getting involved, like Starfish, if you're not familiar with them. Wiggs is the founder.
Yeah. Tell me, I haven't heard of Starfish.
Yeah, check them out. And there's a handful of companies that are chewing on that space, but they're utilizing technology to streamline this flow of critical data points, these key product attributes, and how it flows through the supply chain. So if something happens in a very specific short amount of time, all the trading partners can be notified, and that whatever needs to happen with that product can take place so that it reduces the potential harm for people consuming, right?
Exactly.
And I totally agree with you. And I think that this really brilliant companies like they're going to keep coming up and taking that technology instead of taking 100 people in a back room punching through stuff. They've got 8 people because they're using AI to help them do what 100 people used to do.
Exactly. And then every case gets tracked with a lot number, a serial number, et cetera. So if there is a product recall, it's like now if there's a product recall of like lettuce in the Northeast, like all of the lettuce in the Northeast is
Right.
destroyed. It's like an amazing waste of food when there could have only been 5 cases that had the E. coli in it, but they're going to
Right.
just destroy everything.
Well,
So when you
every
get
product
to
has a license plate, and every license plate shows a historical, like a roadmap of where it's been.
exactly.
There's no mystery. Even
Yeah,
in repack products that a lot of companies repack produce, they repack seafood, they
right.
portion control proteins, everything will have a license plate so that there's the traceability is 100% and that fast.
Exactly. And I'm going to say something else. I'm going to throw this comment in here. This is kind of like a sci-fi type comment, but I believe it's possible, if it hasn't already happened, that a future issue regarding artificial intelligence is if people that are using it start to get the feeling that it's become sentient or self-aware. Imagine if it starts like really thinking on its own. That might be the next level. Like I implemented AI, I love it, but now my AI has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
How do I deal with that? It went from AI to AS, which is artificial sentience. So that's this is a sci-fi thing, but
So
we're
you're trying to tell me my toothbrush is going to take over my bank account?
maybe, I don't know. Yeah, if your toothbrush has the AI built into it, it starts,
None of us can think for a second that there's not really brilliant people in a basement somewhere or in a bunker working on stuff that would totally blow our minds.
oh yeah,
We wouldn't be where we are
absolutely.
today with that having not happening for years and years and years, right? So, can Thanos snap his finger and have the people disappear? Who knows? God, I hope that doesn't happen. But and as fast as things are accelerating, even at 61 years old, that would happen in my lifetime probably. But I think it's a great question, and I think really, I want to bring it back down to where we are today. How do we help our industry get better and not just survive, but thrive? That's
Right.
my heart for this business is to undo those knots, speed up. First of all, get better data flowing through, or accurate data. Not it shouldn't be better, it should be right all the time. Better data flowing through, trading partners having kind of like a closed loop. So we have so many disparate companies. That's part of those off-roads in the supply chain I was talking about. So many companies do so many little slivers of work to make this thing go. Why is that? Well, it's because we built a really cumbersome system. So how do we build a better system? And I think it's smart people like you and others are like going, why do we have to have 12 different disparate companies to make a product go from manufacturer to distributor to an operator, and all the attributes flow, and whatever promotion or dollars, whatever it is, it just goes. Whoop. Think about retail. You go buy this RX bar that I ate this morning. It's got a barcode on it. As soon as it's scanned, the entire universe knew I'm Schatz bought it at this time, at this place, for this amount. And oh, by the way, I bought it before, or I bought similar products, and it's instantaneous, right? That doesn't happen in our side of the world. So because that doesn't happen on our side of the world, all those clunky things take place. And going back to your very first question of what do I see happening in the distribution world, I see that being solved. When that gets solved, we'll move. We'll have right data. Manufacturers sometimes don't get data for 60, 90, 120 days. What if they got it weekly? What if they got it daily?
Daily, yeah.
Wow.
On demand.
They have to totally rebuild how they look at stuff.
Yeah.
But now they have levers that they can move maybe on a monthly basis instead of on a semi-annual or quarterly basis that make an immediate impact on their sell-through, etc. I'm making this up, but I'm not making it up, if that makes sense. And so my heart is to help this industry get better. My reason why I joined Cut and Dry, because I think they're a platform that, yes, it's an e-com platform, all these things are happening, but we're doing a lot of things on top of that. We're bringing a lot, and the things we have in the lab that we haven't let out yet, partnering with people like you, trying to build that integration module so it's not so broken and clunky is my desire is to help that happen.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone that's watching this that may not realize it, but Cut and Dry is one of our partners. So the Entree platform fully integrates with Cut and Dry. So
yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, so the work we're doing, we're in sync with each other. So
yeah, and it's important work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I'd put a bow on it all.
Okay. Hans, you've given so many insights and so forth. It's great. It's great. I really appreciate the time that you spent. And this podcast is going to be primarily consumed by our distributor base on our channel. So, but I think others might watch it. But I think it's a lot of little gems out there, a lot of little golden nuggets for people to pick out and try to figure out what is going to happen in the future, for their food distribution operation.
Right. Well, we're all in it together, even though it doesn't seem like that. And, I like to think it's just one long rope that runs through. It's like a through line, like the theater people, they have a through line. We all are pulling, but we need to pull on it together, and so we can build that synergistic, so that everybody wins together. It's not a one-off. I get mine. Good luck getting yours.
Exactly. And then all kinds of other issues are solved, like food shortage prevention, food recall, food safety, like all these other things naturally happen so that people feel good about the foods they consume.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a whole other robust topic for someday.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, you're a great host, by the way.
Oh, thank
you.
You
Threw me some really nice softballs. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Is there anything else that you'd want to talk about that we may have missed?
I don't. I
went through a lot.
Yeah, I think we probably covered a lot of ground today, and again, I'll just say passionately that pick your partners well, do your due diligence well, don't make emotional decisions, look at the data, and then build that trust relationship, or start building that trust relationship. Trust takes time, and trust is a choice, right? And then dig in, man. So work and set a vision for the future and start working towards what that vision is. And I really believe, I don't care what size distributor you are, where you are, what you do, your enterprise will improve. And that's part of what we live to do at Cut and Dry, which is why I joined the company, because I believe in the mission. I love the tech, and I'm really a big fan of the people, especially the nucleus they've been working together for over 20 years. They're really smart people. And I'm excited to see where we're going, where this industry is going. But there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of help to be spread around.
Exactly. Well, Hans, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
And I'll put all the links in the description area below. So if someone wants to check out Cut and Dry, If someone wanted to reach you, what's the best way they can reach out and have a conversation?
They can reach me. My email is super simple. It's Hans, Hans, at cutanddry, CUTANDDRY.com, cutanddry.com. Hans at cutanddry.com. And if you get my name, shame on you because there's not a ton of Hanses running around out there.
Exactly. All right, Hans. Thank you very much. And until the
My
next time
pleasure.
we talk.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it very much. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. You're welcome. You too.